The Rebbe in Ois Yud, we're going to start Ois Yud again, we read just a couple of lines. The Rebbe in Ois Yud begins to explain the difference between what we've been calling Mesiras Nefesh and Kosis Lamar. Now the Rebbe actually uses those words. These two different levels of Kosis Lamar, but the Rebbe is going to include also Matan Torah. So there's going to be Matan Torah, the first part of Purim and the second part of Purim. 3 different levels. V'yesh leimar. Shebechinas, we saw this yesterday, we'll see it again quickly. Shebechinas ma'or de neshama. This aspect of ma'or de neshama, hamizgalos, al-yedei inyan kosis, that's revealed through the notion of kosis, the crushedness of Golos. But what aspect of it? Mizeh shenimtzoim b'Golos, the fact that we're found in Golos, not the situation. The situation in Golos can be good. This is a higher level than the level of Ma'or the Neshama, Shemizgales al Yedei Mesiras Nefesh, that's revealed through Mesiras Nefesh. So now the Rebbe, we knew this, right? We saw these 2 different levels. Now the Rebbe has given them names, Mesiras Nefesh and Kosis Lama'or. Ve'inyanu, Mesiras Nefesh is the response to a difficult situation in Golos. Kosis Lama'or is a response to the essential existence of Golos. And what crushes the Jew? The fact that the Eibush is not revealed, which we saw in the Ois test at the end. Ve'inyanhu. Now again, this piece is a difficult piece. Amongst the reasons, Matan Torah the Matan Torah was only the beginning of the reception of the Torah. What they began to do. Ubimei Achashverosh, and at the time of Achashverosh, Haisa Kabbalah, that was V'kibul Yehudim, who, Kizeh Shedimu Nasa L'Nishma, that which we said first Nasa and then Nishmat Matan Torah, what was that a response to? Hayim Ibnei Shekaf Aleim Har Kegigis. That's because the Eibush held the mountain above our head. What was that? What does that mean? Gilu Milamayla, there was a tremendous revelation from above. So to speak, we were forced. The Eibush took away our free will by virtue of the fact that it was so obvious that Elokus was here and telling us what to do. Whereas, so in other words, it was all from above. Ubimei Achashverosh, the time of Achashverosh, Haisa Kabbalah Mitzadatz, when the Kabbalah came from themselves, which is always deeper and more real, something imposed upon me by virtue of external events. I might act a certain way, but that isn't necessarily as it hasn't been internalized by me to the extent that that's who I am. I'm acting that way because of the external event. So too, Matan Torah. We said what we said because of this incredible external event, which the Rebbe is going to compare to that the neshama above sees Elokus. We saw Elokus at Matan Torah. Purim came from us, then it's real. V'yesh leimar, she'emunah d'Yisrael mitzad zeh, the emunah of the Jewish people, mitzad zeh she'neshama shelamayla, by virtue of the fact that the neshama above, roya elokus, sees elokus. This is one of the, in Ois, was it Ois Gimel? In Ois Gimel, the Rebbe told us that there are, it's basically, hey, way off. Right? 2 reasons. We said a nice hey. 2 reasons why it is that Am Yisrael are ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. One is the neshama and Atzilus sees Elokus. The other is the essence of the neshama, the essential connection. So, Rebbe is now comparing this to the different levels of Kabbalah of Torah. Matan Torah itself, what was that similar to? Seeing Elokus. Like the neshama seeing Elokus. Emunah, shemitzad siba. Emunah, that's a function of a reason. Something's happening. So therefore, I believe in what is being shown to me. Well, derech shigdimu, that's very similar to shigdimu nasa l'nishma b'matan Torah, that we said nasa v'nishma b'matan Torah. Why? Mitzad gilui de l'mayla was all a function of the revelation from above.
Could you repeat what Emunah shemitzad means?
Emunah, what's mitzad as a result of? What's a siba?
I don't know what siba is.
A cause, a reason, a cause or a reason, right? Something happened.
Okay.
So therefore, God appeared to me, so now I believe in God. Okay, so that's good. But that's not as deep a connection to the Eibishter that comes from the essence of my being. Okay, but still, Baruch Hashem, the person believes in the Eibishter. So there's that level of emunah, which we said comes from the fact that our neshama above sees a lakus. But it's a makif. It doesn't necessarily penetrate into my conscious reality. Okay, but it's there. It's real. Right? So that's Matan Torah. Matan Torah is similar to the reception of the Torah. It's similar to the emunah that comes from the fact that our soul sees HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too at Matan Torah, the acceptance of the Torah is based on the fact that we saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the mountain. That's one level. That's the lower of the three levels we're going to see. And that which in the days of Achashverosh, Haisa Kabbalah, the reception was, the receiving of the Torah was mitzad atzmam, came from themselves, through their avodah, who, ki az, at that time, nizgala iskashus, what was revealed, iskashus belokus, their connection to godliness, mitzad etzem in the shama. It comes from the essence of the soul, not a reason, but just an expression of an essential reality. Iskashus atzmis, an essential connection, shumitzad, that's a result of etzem in the shama, etzem etziyusa, the essence of their being, a higher level. Now, that took avodah to reveal, right? But we'll see, there's two different levels of that avodah also. There's the revelation of that as a result of the fact that the external events are happening and push a Jew to come to such a state. That's Mesiras Nefesh. And then there's a revelation of that because the Jew does the avodah to reveal that in themselves. And that's going to be Kassis Lamar. It's the second level, which is much higher. Okay, so two levels. We said earlier in the Maimer in Ois Hey, doing tshuva. In Ois Hey, we said two different sources of our emunah. One is Mazli Chazi. We discussed this in the Maimer. Mazli Chazi, my soul sees. Where does my soul see Elokus? In Olam Hatzilus, our soul right now is in Olam Hatzilus and it's experiencing a revelation of Elokus. Does that affect conscious me down here? It has a makif effect on conscious me down here. It's very hard to bring that into Panimis because I'm not in Hatzilus, I'm down here. That's one level. Then the level that's more readily available to be brought into Panemius. Why? Not that it's a lower level, it's actually a higher level, but it's the etzem of the neshama, my essential connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the essence of the soul is connected to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that means that the essence of the soul, that also includes the idea that the essence of the soul is the essence of every aspect of the soul. So to my soul down here, what's its essence? Essence is essence. DNA is DNA. Okay, so that spiritual genetic reality is the spiritual genetic reality of me down here. So it's easier to tap into that, and that's the source of what you and I call Mesiras Nefesh. Down here. And that was Purim. Purim was an expression of that. The Mesiras Nefesh that the Jews had in order to keep the Torah, which was greater than the acceptance of Torah at the time of Matan Torah, because that was a function of, so to speak, an external event. Okay, fine. That we've heard of those two levels. But what the Rebbe told us in his tests is that there are two levels in Purim itself. There's the level before the miracles and the level after the miracles. And we've now been calling the level before the miracles Mesiras Nefesh, and the level after the miracle, Kassis Lamar. Okay, so in Purim there's going to be two. So in Kabbalah Torah in Kabbalah Torah at Purim there's going to be two different levels. And this is where it gets difficult. Ubepratius Yeser. The beginning is not difficult. The last half of what's left in the page has to be understood. Ubepratius Yeser. More particular level, detailed level, yesh lemar. Shegam begilui etzem in the shama. Also in the revelation of etzem in the shama, yesh nam dugma shnei inyonim. There are two different levels two different ways in which etzem haneshama can be revealed in the conscious reality of a person down here. I was going to describe those two ways and then describe how they're different.
Hey, Muhammad.
Hanal, as was explained earlier, Hanizkar Li'il, that was mentioned earlier. Hanal. Okay? The Gilui Etzem in the Shama being in a Mesiras Nefesh, the reality of the revelation of the essence of the soul that brings about Mesiras Nefesh, which we said is the lower level. Yesh Lemar, Shebenegeya, regarding the Keches Hagiluyim, the revealed powers of the soul, meaning conscious you, who Kamei Davar Noisaf, it's like, now the word Kamei is written in a special font to show that really, obviously, it does resonate in my consciousness. But, right, a person is reaching a state of Mesiras Nefesh, so he's conscious of what he's doing. Okay, but it's like something added onto him, and it isn't necessarily him. He's acting that way, and it's very, very impressive and amazing. But it's not, it hasn't mamish been, he hasn't been transformed into that state, as we'll see. So that's how, in Chassidus, that's called the davar noisaf. It's something added on to him, so to speak. Okay. He looks really good because he's got on a nice suit. The suit's not him, but it's him, right? It fits him, he's wearing it. Okay. So something's happening in this person's conscious reality. It's not transforming his conscious reality, but it's happening, so to speak, through the agency of his conscious reality. Now, the Rebbe is going to bring an example of that, which will make this clearer. As we see in actuality, become al-nashim, relative to certain people. Now the Rebbe is going to talk about the people who were Meiser Nefesh in Russia, and then left Russia. As we see regarding certain people, when they were in a place, shayu sham gezeders al Torah mitzvahs, that there were decrees regarding Torah mitzvahs. Russia, Soviet Union, hayale Mesiras Nefesh b'feil. They had Mesiras Nefesh in actuality. Meshach kama v'kama shanim. They were Meiser Nefesh to keep Torah mitzvahs in Russia. Mamish, real Mesiras Nefesh. They're putting their life on the line. And when they came afterwards to countries that they were able to involve themselves in Torah and mitzvahs in a calm way, with width and breadth, expansion in an expansive way, it's not recognized on them so much. Mesiras Nefesh that they had before. These people were mamish Meiser Nefesh to keep Torah and mitzvahs in Russia. And then they come to LA, or they come to Yerushalayim. You can't pick them out of the crowd. I mean, they might look Russian. But can you tell that this guy was Meiser Nefesh for 20 years in his life to keep Torah and mitzvahs? No, davening like everybody else. Schmoozing at the Farbrengen like everybody else. Right? Doesn't seem to be recognized, meaning that there hasn't been an obvious change in his whole conscious being. His conscious being was the vehicle for the expression of this unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh. But then when there was no need for the Mesiras Nefesh afterwards, then what? He reverted back to being he's a good guy. He's not like all of a sudden became a lowlife. Right? He's a serious guy. But do you see the Mesiras Nefesh on him any more than you see the Mesiras Nefesh on anybody else who's walking around in the Chabad shul in LA? No. Not necessarily. Another example is a little closer to home. Unless you're from LA. Right? Walk on the streets of Yerushalayim. Try to pick out the guy who 3 months ago was being Meiser Nefesh in Gaza. Pick him out. Can't pick him out. Why not? He exhibited pretty serious Mesiras Nefesh 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whenever it was. Right? Okay. Now, back to work. You see on this guy this unbelievable internal change, this completely different human being? No. Did he exhibit the level of Mesiras Nefesh? Is very, very impressive when he was down there in battle doing things that were serious. And not every single guy down there is Meiser Nefesh, Beseder. I mean, the Bechlal being there is pretty serious. Right? But I mean, okay, there's people who are doing amazing things, and there's people who are, trying to do their best to stay out of the way. Okay, that's like anywhere. But there's people down there who are mamish unbelievable. I mean, the Bechlal, in general, we'll call them all superheroes. Pashut superheroes. Unbelievable. Okay. Now they're back. Many of them, not all of them. They're back. Are they recognizable? No. Are they any different? There's some residual difference. There's no question, that an event that's as powerful an event as that is going to affect the person. But they basically still have the same hang-ups they had before they went there, and they might... Are they treating their wife any better? Maybe a little, maybe not. Right? Hard to tell. Right? Was there an expression of Mesiras Nefesh at that point when they were down there? Yeah. Can you see it now? No. Pick them out. Can't pick them out. Really interesting what the Rebbe is saying. So the Rebbe is talking about people who were in the Soviet Union.
Surely some people did, but like for
The
example.
Rebbe said, some people.
Oh.
I didn't say everybody, some people.
Oh.
Right? This is possible. Because not everybody reaches the level of Chassidus Lamar. In order to reach the level of Chassidus Lamar, something else is going to have to happen. This is Mesiras Nefesh. Why? So the Rebbe explains. That which they stood in a state of Mesiras Nefesh for a number of years when they were in Russia, or for a number of months when they were in Gaza, because it was illuminated in them, Gilu Etzem and Neshama, a revelation of Etzem and Neshama, Shalamayla Mikerchis Agiluyim, that's beyond their revealed conscious powers of the soul. And what happened? That was revealed. But it wasn't brought about as a result of this, a change in their revealed powers themselves. In other words, a change in their conscious reality. Their conscious reality was a vehicle for the expression of something incredibly impressive. When it was no longer necessary, they reverted back to where they were. Why? That doesn't mean that they didn't do something unbelievably impressive. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a revelation of Etzem and Neshama. Those Jews who kept Yiddishkeit in Russia for 20 years. 20 years, they're Mesiras Nefesh, the stories we were talking about earlier, by they're going different ways every day to Mincha Marev, right? It's crazy stories, right? I remember hearing Rabbi Riskin, who was a Rav in New York, and then he came to Eretz Yisrael and he built a community called Efrat, just south of Yerushalayim. Shlomo Riskin, one of the only Americans who ever came here and was successful in building anything in the Shtachim. He was successful. Most Americans who came here to build things in the Shtachim, they were building a suburb of Atlanta, and it didn't work. Because no. He'll say, I have a Rav and a Rebbe. He says this in public. My Rav is Rav Soloveitchik and my Rebbe is Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was in close contact with the Rebbe when he used to go to Russia, etc. He went to Russia a lot, and so he met with the Rebbe a lot before he went. So one of the stories he tells from Russia, he said the most amazing question he was ever asked by a Jew. He said that there was a Jew who walked 4 hours to shul every Shabbos morning. It was a 4-hour walk. He would start at 4 in the morning. And he wanted to know if he could say Tehillim at night on Shabbos Mevarchim. Because he had time in the morning. He's walking for 4 hours. That was the question that he asked him. So he said when he tells the story, is it true or not? I don't know. No, the story is true for sure. He tells the story. So after I finish crying, whether that part's true or not, I don't know. But he tells a good story, Rabbi Riskin, so it might just be he's telling a good story. Or he really started to cry. I don't know. I mean, he could. He's a very warm person. He said, I told him, it's okay to say Tehillim at night. This Jew walks 4 hours to shul every Shabbos. In the winter also. Well, mainly in the summer. In the winter, he walks through the snow for 4 now. Probably there's places that are cleared and he can walk, but it's minus 20. And he's walking for 4 hours to shul. Okay. Now, if that Jew were to move to Atlanta or LA or Yerushalayim or Bnei Brak or Kfar Chabad, so that level of Mesiras Nefesh wouldn't be necessary, and it wouldn't necessarily be recognized on him. It might be, but it wouldn't necessarily be recognized. Why? Because that level of Mesiras Nefesh, the Rebbe says, was expressed through the Keiches HaGiluyim, his conscious reality, but wasn't affecting his Keiches HaGiluyim. Didn't have a long-term effect. Okay? Again, like we said, the soldier who's in a very tight space and is Mesiras Nefesh for a certain period of time. Okay, you can't point him out on the street when he comes back to civilization. Was he Mesiras Nefesh down there? Yeah, unbelievable. Up there, down there, Lebanon, Gaza, wherever he was, right? The Galapagos Islands, I know wherever he was, right? Okay. Is he recognizable afterwards? Well, not necessarily. Actually, usually not. As a matter of fact, which is really interesting. People get mad at the way Israelis sometimes yell. I mean, first of all, it's a Moroccan thing, but bichlal, that Israelis sometimes yell, etc., in a way that the Americans find disconcerting. Okay, that doesn't mean they should yell, but it is true that when Americans were in college, 18 years old, drowning in a sea of whipped cream, so Israelis were being yelled at in the army. No one talks in the army in basic training. They yell at you. It's just like, I don't know why they have to do it, but that's what they do. They started doing it with us. I was the youngest guy in my group in basic training. I was 28. So, because it was all guys who had, done army later, mostly Olim. So they started yelling at us the first day. So they were all younger than us. So we told them, you guys don't have to yell at us. Just ask us what to do. We'll do it. I mean, you don't have to go crazy. Just talk to us like normal human beings, and we'll do what you want to do. We're here. We're here. No problem. They figured it out after the first day, and then we all got along. They'd say, Kaplan, Kaplan said that the Kaplan said no problem. Come in. No, you didn't have to do that. Kaplan, take this over. Yeah, fine, thanks. How you doing? Okay. Yeah, good. Thanks. Good morning. Now, we weren't, we weren't going to be the most serious soldiers in the army, right?
Can the effect of the situation that brings about a state of Mesiras Nefesh help you in reaching a state
Absolutely,
of
100%. If a person does the work, they can internalize it.
But it just doesn't
But the
happen.
word, that's all coming from them.
Okay.
That's why it's very interesting, because there's going to be these two levels that are similar to what we just said about the first level. The first level was the connection, the emuna mitzad emuna, and Kabbalah Torah mitzad Kabbalah came from an external event, an external reason, so to speak. Siva, my soul sees God, Tzilis, or we saw God at Matan Torah, Kafalem Harkagigis, tremendous revelation from above. Okay, then there's a deeper level. Now that's the level of Mesiras Nefesh, which isn't coming from an external event, it's coming from an internal reality. The essential connection that we all have with the Eibishter. But that essential connection can work through conscious reality or become conscious reality. Becoming conscious reality is incredible avodah. And that's the second level of Kassis Lamar. We haven't seen that yet in here. I mean, we have, but in this context of explaining what the Rebbe is explaining now, we haven't seen it. But that's right now. The Rebbe doesn't use these words, but as a mushal for this, I'll tell you two different levels of connection of two things. There's something called a ma'avar, and there's a state of being that you've heard of called hislavshus. Hislavshus means one thing is clothed in the other, and it becomes that thing. Ma'avar is it goes through it. What's an example? So now, the godly light could theoretically go through something or be mislavish in it. If it's mislavish in it, so it becomes one with it. If it goes through it, so to speak, passes through it, a ma'avar means to la'avor through it. So then the thing it goes through isn't changed by virtue of the fact that the godly light went through it, but the godly light used it as a vehicle to get from one place to another. What's an example? Well, an example in Seichel. What's the difference between this machine and your intellect? This machine is a ma'avar. This machine will take things that I say and transfer them to somewhere else. Is the machine affected in any way, shape, or form by that? No. Is it taking what I'm saying and passing it somewhere else? Absolutely. In an incredibly clear and pristine form. It's taking exactly what I'm saying and taking it somewhere else without any of its own yeshus there. Mm-hmm. This piece of plastic is not deciding that he'd like to say it this way so that when you play it back, he says it a different way than I said it. No. He says exactly what I said. He's a ma'avar. But there's no islavshus. The ideas that we're learning in Chassidus aren't clothed in him such that he becomes one with the ideas. In no way, shape, or form. But it's happening through him. How about your intellect? When the idea goes in your intellect, it's mislavish in your intellect. And then you give it over to someone else, but you're giving it over to someone else with some of your own input into it because you've come to an understanding of it and internalized it so that now you're going to express it in the way that you'll express it, which will be slightly different than the way the teacher expressed it. If all you can do is parrot back what the teacher said, then you're like a tape machine. You don't understand anything. You're just parroting it back. Right? Well, that's how they do it. Exactly. That's a lot of education today is just that, and that's not the idea. The idea is to teach people how to think. Don't say what I say. Say it in your words. Right? Okay. Fine. Now you have to say what the Gemara is saying, but you have to say what the Gemara is saying in your words. Right? You can't say something else. Right? Okay. So I have to, on one hand, I have to be bottled to the idea. On the other hand, there has to be a me that's understanding it and it's percolating in my intellect and it's going to come out of my intellect in a different way. Right? Not a different idea, it has to be the same idea. Right? But I'm not going to use exactly the same words the Gemara used. Why? Well, I might even translate it. I might say it in English, okay? But just translating it doesn't mean I necessarily understand it, as we talk a lot about in Gemara, right? Because all I'm doing is translating. I don't understand it. No, it has to be mislavish in my seichel and become one with my seichel. Then I understand the idea, as opposed to just being a ma'avar. Right? Goes in and goes out. Right? Okay. So the Rebbe isn't using those terms here, but you can use that as a mushal for what's happening. Right? There's the level of Mesiras Nefesh where it's as if conscious you is simply a ma'avar for the revelation of Etzem and Neshama for a particular period of time. It is being revealed through your conscious behavior. And it might be 20 years, which is amazing. And obviously it affects the person. The person's a serious person. Right? But has that person become one with that state of being? No, not necessarily. And what's the mashal the Rebbe brings and the proof that the Rebbe brings? Because there's people who spent 20 years being Mesiras Nefesh for Yiddishkeit in Russia, and when they got out, they were like, they weren't fried, they didn't fry out. They were from Baruch Hashem. But is it recognizable on this guy if you walk into a shul and there's 5 guys who just got out of Russia, and not just. Right? They've been out of Russia for 5 years, and you walk into a shul in LA, can you figure out, oh wow, those guys, look at those guys. Those guys are like on fire. They're completely different than everybody else in shul. No, they're basically like everybody else. Okay, they have a Russian accent. Everybody in shul has a Russian accent. There's Naftali Estil in shul. Everybody has a Russian accent. Okay. Right? The Russian shul in LA run by an unbelievable guy. Okay. So fine. So Naftali shul, everybody has a Russian accent. Fine. Who came out in this year and who came out in that year and who was from over there and who got from in LA with Naftali? Can you tell? Well, really interesting. Right? Oh, so that's Mesiras Nefesh, not Kassis Lamar. Kassis Lamar is the person, even though they're not in a situation that requires unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh, they're still in a place that it's recognizable that their whole being is Elokus. So the Rebbe says, when they come to other places, and we read this, it's not recognized on them. Kolkach is in brackets, parentheses, so you can see it in the middle. It's not so recognized. If you talk to the person for a while, you might become aware of it. It's not obvious. Why? So the Rebbe explains. Ki zeh sha'amdu b'mesiras nefesh mesher kama v'kama shanim. Hush lefi, that's lefi sheheir behem gilui etzem neshama. It shone in them a revelation of the essence of their soul. This is a real thing. This is like an amazing thing. Shalamayla mikeiches agiluyim. That's beyond keiches agiluyim, beyond the revealed powers. We read this. V'loy nasa bat, v'loy nasa al yedei zeh, but it wasn't brought about as a result of the shinui, a change, b'keiches agiluyim atzma. In the revealed powers themselves. In other words, the conscious reality of this person. He experienced this very, very, very powerful experience. Incredibly powerful experience. And obviously it affects him. Did it bring about a complete change in him? No. Did his conscious reality become one with that experience? No. Is he a bad guy? No, he's amazing. Right? Okay, but there's now another level of avoid he has to do, which is get to the point that his conscious reality is one with that state of essential connection. That's avoida from below. It's not going to be a function of a reality outside him. Why did this guy? What?
And that's what serious nefesh becomes a part of him.
And then it becomes kasis lamar. So the why was this guy Meser Nefesh? Soviet. I mean, he's not impressive. It's unbelievably impressive. Right? But the Mesiras Nefesh came from the fact that the Soviets pushed him to a place where that was necessary, and he did it, which is incredible. Right? It's so easy to do. What about when there's no Soviet? Baruch Hashem, there's no Soviet. I don't know what Soviets are. Creepy people. The zeh she'etzem in the shama, that which the essence of the soul. Now this is where it gets tricky from here to the end of the page. And there's a footnote that's really difficult. The zeh she'etzem in the shama, he etzem gam de keiches agiluyim. That even though, right, I mean, we said earlier, what was the advantage of emunah that came from etzem? It would resonate in my conscious reality more because the essence of the neshama is the essence of every level of the neshama, the essence of everything. So it's not like essence is up there and I'm down here, essence is here, because it's the essence of me down here too. Okay, so that's different than Mazli Chazi. When we said Mazli Chazi, where's that happening? That's happening in Eilam Atzilus. When the Neshama is seeing God in Eilam Atzilus. I'm not there, I'm here. Not in Eilam Atzilus. Right? Okay. The Zesh, Etzem and Neshama, here Etzem Gam. It's the Etzem also of the Keiches Agiluyim, of the revealed powers, Kanal Sifei, like we said, Kanizkar Le'il, like it was mentioned earlier in Sifei, two different levels of source of Emunah, and the advantage of the source being Etzem, because it's also the Etzem of the Keiches Agiluyim, of the revealed powers, which is synonymous with conscious me. Who, what does that mean though? In other words, this line is tricky. She'etzem and the Neshama hu ha'etzem shalahem. The essence of the soul is the essence of them. Ve'ein zeh shayach, but this isn't necessarily relevant. Linyonim shel keiches hagiluyim atzmam, to the reality of these conscious powers themselves, and what the Rebbe calls that shiur shalahem, how they express themselves. Shiur is their form, it's a hard word to translate into English. But shiur shalahem. Atzura is a form. Shiur can also be the picture of them, but the way they express themselves. In other words, the essence of you and me is the essence of you and me. So my DNA is my DNA, okay, but I'm not aware of my DNA when I'm acting in the conscious world. I'm aware of my conscious reality. So yes, it's the DNA of my consciousness, but how does my consciousness act? Well, I don't know, it acts the way it acts, based on all sorts of things. So part of it, it's true, will act based on the DNA, which you and I might call nature, but part of it will also act based on something you and I will call nurture. which might be contradictory to my deity. Right? Because the essence of my neshama is here and is the essence of every single part of me, and that goes for every single Jew walking on the face of the earth. Are they all acting in a way relative to their conscious reality that's in line with their essential reality? Do you know anybody who does? There are some people who are acting in a way that's completely and totally contrary. There are other people acting in a way that isn't mamish in line with. That doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, the people who Baruch Hashem are fortunate enough to have heard about Yiddishkeit and are doing their best to do what they're trying to do in Yiddishkeit. Okay, say. So those people are at least trying to somehow connect their conscious being to their essential being, but it's not like there's a complete connection. Is the essence of their conscious being? Yes. Are they aware of that intellectually? Yes, because they've learned Chassidus. Okay, fine. Is that what they experience in their conscious reality? No. What do they experience? Me. Like, I'm there. There's a me. Okay. Could I get to the place where all that I'm experiencing is my essential connection to the Eibishter? Yes. That possible? Yes. That's called Kosis Lamar, but that takes unbelievable avodah. Where's the avodah coming from? Me. Down here. It's not happening based on some external event. It's not happening even on the external event that someone's pushing me to the wall, not me. Someone's pushing the Jew to the wall, so the Jew has to exhibit tremendous Mesiras Nefesh for a certain period of time. It's just the person's brought themselves to a point where their conscious reality and their essential reality are one. Is that necessarily always the case? Well, no, we know it isn't. So that's what the Rebbe just said. What about a person who was able to mamish connect their conscious reality to their essential reality for a certain period of time? That can happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that their conscious reality becomes their essential reality. There's still a difference between the two of them. And that's the level of Mesiras Nefesh, and that's why when Mesiras Nefesh isn't necessary, the person will revert back to relatively normal behavior. Normal meaning relative to what everybody else is doing. Again, not that they're not a good guy, they're a serious guy, and they want to serve God, and they're working on it, and they'd even like to get to that level of what you were calling Kosis Lamar, but they're not there. They're not there. They have taivas and elam hazeh just like everybody else, and they can have a conversation right after davening about, their new car.
I'm just going to ask this. Going back previously, as you stated, first level of Chassidus Lamar is when a person's conscious reality and their essential reality are separate.
Okay, let's call that Mesiras Nefesh to separate between them. Let's call that Mesiras Nefesh in order to separate clearly between what we're going to call Mesiras Nefesh, which is what you just said, and then the next level. That way it's easier to understand, which the Rebbe's done.
Second level is when you combine, correct?
Bediuk. Combined, they're one, meaning that the essence shines through the consciousness. The conscious becomes the essence. That's what Mendel Futter for us. That's what Laser Nanas. That's Berkeh Chaim. Those guys. They came out of Russia. They're exactly the same out of Russia as they were in Russia. No difference.
Two levels of Chassidus Lamar.
But why not say, again, what you're saying is right. It's two levels of Chassidus Lamar, but you're going to get it mixed up. Let's use what the Rebbe has now told us. There's Mesiras Nefesh and Chassidus Lamar. In the pasuk, it's Chassidus Lamar. You're right. In the pasuk, those are the words. But now the Rebbe is differentiated, so it's probably useful for us to differentiate it. Then we will always remember. Because if I use the same terminology for both, I might, when it's not as fresh in my mind, lose sight of which is which. I don't want to do that. Mesiras Nefesh is one thing. What the Rebbe is calling now Chassidus Lamar is the other thing. Yes, in the pasuk, Chassidus Lamar refers to Mesiras Nefesh. That's true.
And in the
But now the Rebbe is talking about two different levels.
in the Purim story, that's how we understand it.
What's that? What do you mean?
That when things were hard and Hashem was far, and we didn't see Hashem, there's no longer when the Gezerah was there, it was Mesiras Nefesh, and then it became Chassidus Lamar.
That's why there was two different levels of Kabbalah Torah. Important during the Gezerah, before the miracle, and after the miracle. 100%. So I'll be saying that's where the whole Chiddush comes from, is where that pasuk is. Now we still haven't explained V'yikoi Lecha. This is all to explain V'yikoi Lecha in the pasuk, right? After explaining the Maimer, the Rebbe now said, okay, but I explained the order of the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, but I haven't explained the order of the Pasuk. Why is V'yikoi? I understand in the words of the Pasuk why V'yikoi Lech has to be in there, but conceptually, Veata tetzave b'nei Yisrael, you connect the Jewish people to the essence of who they are, and Kosis Lamar, the Mesiras Nefesh or Kosis Lamar, that's all, those two things go together. Why is there something separating them? V'yikoi Lech. In the Pasuk. That's what we're trying to explain. Okay, Seder. So now let's go. The Rebbe continues. This is very difficult. It's like a very, very subtle idea in the difference between these two states. Vagilu edatzim in the Shama. Now the Rebbe is going to talk about the second level, Kosis Lamar, not Mesiras Nefesh. Vagilu edatzim in the Shama bezeh. And this revelation of etzim in the Shama bezeh, shun nishbar v'nitke, that he's crushed mizeh from this shuhu nimsa b'golas, not the situation in Golas, but the fact that he's found in Golas. What happens? Where does that come from? Hu shegam keiches agiluyim shaloi. That is when his keiches agiluyim, when his conscious reality, and other Rebbe says hatziur to keiches agiluyim, the expression of his conscious reality, him kamechadim ha'etzim are one with his etzim. He's living etzim. He's not just expressing etzim. He's living it. That might be a useful way of differentiating. Mesiras Nefesh is expressing that. Because he's Lamar, he's living that. He is that. It's a different state. And those are the Ramentals of the world. They came out of Russia, they were exactly the same. Right? Rav Mendel, when he was being interrogated by the Russians, he said, I understand. Why are you upset at me that I'm taking Yidden out of Russia? Because that's what he was doing, right? They were hijacking trains and getting people across the border. Once they got across the border into Poland, so Poland was no man's land after the Second World War. So it was this Hefker. The Russians were there, but I mean, they weren't in control as much, right? So that you could, once you got them into Poland, if you got them further, that was even better. But generally, if you got them into Poland, so they could make their way to the west. Right? Okay. So Rav Mendel and a bunch of other people were hijacking trains and filling the trains up. You're hijacking trains. Chassidim hijacking trains. You're hijacking trains and getting people across into the west. Okay. So when they were interrogating him, he said, I understand. I'm not rebelling against Russia. He said this to them. I'm not rebelling against Russia, taking people out of Russia. If the Rebbe were here, the Friedrich Rebbe wasn't there, right? The Friedrich Rebbe was on the other side. If the Rebbe was here, I'd be hijacking trains and bringing people into Russia. Well, it has nothing to do with Russia. That's what he told them. Now, they had nowhere to put this. I mean, the Jews understood. Because there were a lot of Jewish interrogators, because there was the Jewish part of the Communist Party that was mostly responsible for hounding the Jews. Right? Okay. So, but that's what he told them. So this has nothing to do with taking people out of Russia. The Rebbe is not in Russia, so I'm running people out of Russia. If the Rebbe were in Russia, I'd be bringing people into Russia.
What is this?
Mendel Futterfass. Okay, so he spent whatever he spent in Siberia after that. He finally got out, the help of the British Prime Minister. And so he got to London. There was family in London. It was his family, his wife, his children. So he got out and got to London, and then the Rebbe said, "Okay, I want you to go to Eretz Yisrael, and I want you to be a mashpia in Eretz Yisrael." And Rav Mendel said, "Okay," but he had the chutzpah to say, make one tanai, one condition. What was his condition? He said, I don't want you to take away so many days of Yom Tov every year. And Mendel used to keep 2 days Yom Tov here in Eretz Yisrael. So they go to Eretz Yisrael, you're going to take away Yom Tov. You have half as many days of Pesach, half as many days of Yom Tov and Sukkot, half as many days of Yom Tov and Shavuos. I don't want to lose all those days of Yom Tov. So Mendel used to keep 2 days here.
Which Rebbe sent him, the Friedrich Rebbe?
No, I read it. He got out in the 60s. He's a pretty special guy, man. A friend of mine was, there were some guys from Chutzlites in Kfar Chabad, so they were keeping 2 days Yom Tov. In those days, it wasn't clear. It's pretty clear now that Lubavitch, when you're in Eretz Yisrael, you keep 1 day, and when you're in Chutzlites, you keep 2. It's pretty much certainly by the Rebbe, everybody keeps 2. If you're not by the Rebbe, so you have to ask a Rav what to do if you're in Chutzlites, if you live here and you're going to Chutzlites for Yom Tov, what to do the second day. Malacha you for sure can't do, but you have to, how do you daven, etc. Okay, but and here generally everybody keeps 1 day, but it took a while for that to become clear and to be formulated as clearly as it seems to be now. So these Baruchim would make a second day minyan, and Mendel would always join them because he needed a second day minyan. He always kept 2 days. So a friend of mine was in a minyan with Mendel second day Yom Tov in Kfar Chabad. And there are exactly 10 people, and they're counting, and they say there's 10, we can start. And Mendel's counting, and he says there's only 9. So they count again, there's 10. Mendel counts, there's only 9. So they say, Mendel, there's 10. So finally he counts, oi. He says, I forgot to count myself. Then he smiles, says, oh, this is a good desire. This is good. I forgot to count myself. That's good. That was Mendel. Most people, 1, 2, 3. Mendel forgot to count himself. He was counting 9 guys. Oh, I'm also here. Okay, right. He was a person to learn from. There's no doubt about that. Right? So he was, because he's Lamar, he was like a person who just lived Elukus in Russia, out of Russia. It didn't make any difference. He looked like he was in Russia. He dressed like he was in Russia. He'd walk around Kfar Chabad. I don't know how he, could wear these big boots, and he just, always dressed that way. Always had a casquette. Never had a hat. Never wore a hat. Once Baruch got out of Russia also, and he had a casquette. And so he looked around. He said, everybody's wearing hats. So he bought a hat, a fedora, like the Rebbe's hat. He was wearing exactly the same hat as the Rebbe. And he sat in Farbrengen. And the Rebbe didn't say him by name, but the Rebbe talked in the Farbrengen about, sometimes people, they come from a certain place and they look a certain way, and then they go somewhere else and they think they have to look another way. So they change their hat from a hat that looks like it's a proper hat for them to a hat that makes them look ridiculous. The Rebbe is wearing exactly the same hat that he thinks that guy looks ridiculous in. So Berka heard that and said, he put his fedora away and put back his casquette, and he walked around with a casquette forever. Yeah. You always see those pictures of Mendel. He's always got a casquette on. This is what they wore in Russia. So the Rebbe says, we finished at footnote 56, we'll finish the paragraph. The Rebbe says that the state of kosis lamar, that the person's nishbar v'nidka, because he's found in Gullus, that's when his conscious reality and his essential reality are one. And when the Rebbe says that, he adds that word hatsiur to keichas hagiluim, the way they express themselves. And more than the way the actual, and it's the wrong translation. The character of the Keiches Hagiluim, let's use that word better. The character of the Keiches Hagiluim is one with the Etzem. Before, only the behavior was one with the Etzem, but not the character of them. Now the character of the Keiches Hagiluim is one with the Etzem. V'yesh leimar. That which the essence of the soul, shiur, in the character, the keiches, of the powers of those heim dugmas shnei and yonim, they're 2 different things. That's the case of, that's what we've been calling Mesiras Nefesh, who, lefisha gam etzem and neshama, because also, etzem and neshama, now I was going to say an amazing thing, etzem and neshama, he mugderes begeder, is defined by a particular definition. And what's that definition? Vageder shalah, the definition of it, he l'maylam yitzir the keiches, is it's beyond the character of keiches, meaning it's beyond conscious reality. Etzem is not gilui. Oh, so now the Rebbe is going to talk about 2 different levels of etzem. Right? There's etzem in the neshama mitzad, the fact that there's a state of the neshama that's beyond revelation, and is the etzem of the revealed state. And there's the place where the neshama is one with the Eibush Mamish completely. There's a state that describes a certain level of neshama. That's etzem. Now, if we want to make this a little easier for ourselves, the Rebbe's not using these words, but we'll throw it in there. Basically, now the Rebbe is distinguishing between, and this is brought in other places in the Chassidus, the difference between Yechidah Shebenefesh and Etzem. Yechidah Shebenefesh is that the name of Etzem and the Neshama. Meaning, what's Etzem? It's defined as a state of essential reality that by definition is not revealed reality. Different states of reality, essential reality, genetic reality and revealed reality. Right? The reason you have blue eyes is because of your genetic reality, but the blue eyes aren't genetic reality; they're blue eyes. It's not DNA. You can find out what the DNA is by scraping a little skin and looking at it under the microscope. Okay, fine. Take some blood samples, whatever people do to find out someone's DNA. Fine, okay, no problem. But the blood isn't DNA. The blood's blood. The level of the blood that's called DNA that's in there and is this hidden level behind it all. Okay, that's what it is. It's not blood. DNA isn't blood. DNA is responsible for your blood type. You have the blood type you have because of your DNA. You have the colored eyes you have because of your DNA. You have the body build you have because of your DNA. You have the intellectual abilities you have because of your DNA. Okay, fine. But those are different than DNA. Okay. So there's a level of, the Rebbe's not calling Yechidah. The Rebbe's referring to Etzem and Neshama. There's a level of Etzem and Neshama that is defined as Etzem and not revealed. Different state of being. And in all fairness, when we describe essential reality as opposed to revealed reality, we define the difference between the two. Right? Etzem is not or. It's ma'or. It's not or. Or, that's gilui. That's revealed reality. Light is revealed reality. What's etzem? It's the luminary that will be the source of that revealed reality, but it's not that revealed reality. And therefore, the idea of gilui etzem at the time of Mashiach is something that the Chassidus has to try to explain. So I mean, gilui etzem. What's not gilui etzem? Etzem is not gilui. Right? Etzem is etzem. Okay, so here, that's what the Rebbe is saying here. There's a level of etzem and neshama that by definition is etzem, and therefore not something else. Okay, so that, the Rebbe says, that's the level of etzem and neshama that's revealed in the Mesiras Nefesh. This is a very, very subtle point. Okay, it's difficult, especially when you haven't, when you've never dealt with these sort of these sort of ideas. It's difficult to understand. Okay, but say there's always a first time, and this is the first time, and you'll figure it out, and you'll run into it here and there, and you'll understand it. Okay. Etzem is not gilui. Essence isn't revelation. Okay, statement one. So therefore, etzem and neshama is defined in a certain way. Therefore, that definition limits it to a certain way, in a certain way. Okay, that's true. Any definition limits it, fits into this box, doesn't fit into that box. This is a more special box than that box. I get it. Okay, but it's still not that box. So etzem is not gilui. Therefore, relative to that first state, Mesiras Nefesh. So what's the Rebbe saying? That's the revelation of etzem. That's the expression of etzem and neshama in the revealed aspects of the soul, but they don't become one. Because etzem remains etzem, and the revealed aspects of the soul remain the revealed aspects of the soul. And to use the mashal we used before, sometimes the revealed aspects of the soul will become a ma'avar, a means of passage, a means of expression for etzem and neshama, but the etzem remains etzem, and the revealed powers remain the revealed powers. And the Rebbe is saying that's a level in etzem and neshama. Okay, let's read that again. Shnei inyonim in etzem. When they stay shnei inyonim, why will the gam etzem and neshama? Hu mugderes begeder. It's defined by a particular definition. What else does the word geder mean?
Fence.
A fence. Something which fences something in. Now, when you talk about it in conceptual terms, okay, that's what a geder is. What What's the conceptual space that this reality exists in? That's its geder, its defined reality. Okay. Vageder shala, what is the definition of etzem and neshama? Yilamayla mitzvah kertus. It's beyond revealed powers. That's just what it is. It's DNA, it's not blue eyes. Is there a connection between DNA and blue eyes? There's an essential connection between DNA and blue eyes. But what's the revelation of DNA? Blue eyes. Is that DNA? No. So source of it is the DNA. But that's not DNA. Because that's not where DNA lives. DNA lives behind it. It's the source of it all. But it's not it. Okay. There's that aspect of Etzem and Neshama. There's going to be a higher aspect of Etzem and Neshama. Aval. Mitzad, Etzem and Neshama. Mitzad, let's just finish the paragraph. I'm sorry, we're going a little late. We have to finish this paragraph. No shiur Sunday. Okay, no shiur Sunday, I'm not here. But Mitzad, Etzem and Neshama, Kamesh, you can do review. Mitzad, Etzem and Neshama, Kamesh, Hi Mushreshes Ba'atzmus. But the level of Etzem and Neshama that's rooted in the essence of the Eibishter. So now the Rebbe is saying there's a level of Etzem and Neshama that's one of the 5 levels of the soul. And then there's a level of Etzem and Neshama which is just rooted in the Eibishter himself. So how might we want to distinguish between these two? And it is distinguished this way in other places. Yechida and Etzem. Yechida is the name of Etzem and the description of Etzem. But then there's a level beyond, which is the Etzem itself. Hapshitus, the neshama, the simplicity of the neshama, the absolute oneness of it, that it's completely and totally godly. Doesn't have characteristics. It just is what it is. And what is it? Elokus, chelik elokam imal. Vatsir da keiches. And the character of the powers of this neshama, the light, hem kulachad, they're one. There's a level of etzem and neshama that has to be distinguished from the revealed powers of the soul. And then there's a level of etzem and neshama which is completely one with the revealed powers of the soul. Just like when we talk about the Eibishter. When we talk about atzmus, so what's the first thing we tell anybody when they hear that word atzmus, right? Which you won't hear anywhere unless you're learning Chassidus. Atzmus, what's atzmus? Not or, not light. Differentiate between the two of them. Atzmus is not light, etzem is not or. Completely different. Right? Since it sounds like Atzilus, sometimes people get Etzem and Atzilus mixed up. Don't. Etzem is not light. Might it be a luminary which can serve as the source of light? Well, okay. But once you call it a source of light, what are you doing? You're limiting it. You're defining it. Oh, okay. Well, based on what we just said, so there could be a way in which you could describe Etzem that way to the extent that it is sort of it's the luminary, it's the source of the light. Okay, and then there's Etzem itself, the Eibishter himself. Not the Eibishter relative to anything else. Etzem relative to Or is not Or, but it is the luminary that serves as the source of Or. And then there's Etzem itself. And what is we've talked about this before, but the Rebbe Rashab explains in Ayin Beis. Just thought I'd throw that out so you know that I'm so learned.
Wow.
In the beginning of Shachris, what do you say? You say, Elokei Olam v'rachamecha rabim. Now, just so we'll have a place to relate this to. When you start Baruch Shamar, what do you say? Baruch Shamar v'Vayalam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Emer Beisev, Baruch Gezer Kayim, Baruch Esav. 5 levels. What are those 5 levels? Same, I mean, earlier on, but the Rebbe Shab in Ein Beis, what does he explain? 5 different levels that start with Ratzon Apashat Livrei, the basic desire to create. Baruch Shama Vayir. Baruch Hu, the Hashara. Once the Eibishter has a basic desire to create, so there has to be, so to speak, the plan. It's called the Hashara, the estimation of how to do it. Baruch Emer Ve'eseh, Machshava Keduma Da'ak. The Ratzon Kloli, the general desire for the 4 worlds. Baruch Gezer Kayim, bringing the Machshava into Dibur, that it will express itself. Baruch Eiseh Bereshis, Keser B'tzilus. Right? It's Eiseh Bereshis, source of Chachma, Chachma D'tzilus. Bereshis Chachma. Okay, 5 levels. In Shachris, what do you say? Elokei Elam, B'rachamecha Rabim. So what does the Rebbe Shab say? Then what do you say after that? Then you say, and I'm not going to explain them all, Rachem Aleinu, Adeinu Zeinu, Tzur Mizgabeinu, Magin Yishenu, Mizgabedeinu. The same 5 levels that you referred to in Baruch Shamar are mentioned here. Ratzon Apashat Livrei, the Hashara, Machshava Kedumadak, the Dibur, and Keser B'tzilus. Okay. But there's 2 levels before here in Shachris. Elokei Elam, B'rachamecha Rabim. What are those? The Rebbe says those are 2 levels in Atzmus. Elokei Elam, the Eibishter, Atzmus, just him. It's nothing to do with anything else. And then B'rachamecha Rabim, that aspect in Atzmus which wants to somehow become the source of what's going to happen out there in the world of our. Well, that's what we say every day. All right? Okay, so that's what we're saying here. There's 2 different levels of Etzem and Neshama. There's a level of Etzem which is just Etzem. It's just Pashat Elokus. It has no getter, no definition, no limitation, nothing. That can be one with any level because it's not defined by being anything. And then there's a level of Etzem and Neshama which is not the revealed powers of the Neshama.
So is that saying that there's a level of Etzem at even Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, that those are like all the powers of the soul have this level of Etzem in
Well,
them?
what you're saying is absolutely true. But in all fairness, that we said way back in Ois Hey when we said, how is it possible for us to access Etzem more easily than accessing Mazli Chazi? Because the Etzem is the Etzem of every level of the soul. Just like your DNA is the DNA of every level of you. The DNA of your intellect and the DNA of your fingernails are the same. Okay, so yes, there's an etzem of every level, right? But then there's an etzem that is transcendent of every level. Right?
When you compare the etzem to like DNA, that's like the ma'or, and the etzem at its source is like without any mashal.
Okay, yeah. Meaning, but once you get to that second level, the DNA doesn't work anymore, right?
But this level of Etzem that is infused in each power of the soul is a higher level of Etzem?
No.
No.
There's the level of etzem that is. I don't. There's a level of etzem that has to be defined as not but rather the essence of every level of the soul, but not the revealed power of the soul. And those 2 will be different. That'll result in Mesiras Nefesh. Then there's the level of etzem which is beyond any description whatsoever. So it's beyond any limitation whatsoever. So it can be revealed everywhere equally. It's not limited. It's not something. So therefore it can be revealed even in your conscious reality. That's the second level of Etzem that the Rebbe is talking about here. And that'll bring the Chassidus and Likkutei Sichos. That's the Rav Mendel's. How do you touch that place? That's a Veata. Okay? We'll stop here because it's too late. That's a Veata. And that's going to be the Pshat, just we're not going to see this for 3 days. That's going to be the Pshat in V'yicho Elecho. How do you get to the point of Kosis L'ma'or? V'yicho Elecho, avoided from below. Veata tetzave b'nei Yisrael, that can come from above. And Moshe can help me tap into that. Okay? But then I have to take all that koyach that Moshe gives me and I have to do the avodah necessary. That's v'yicho elecho that they will bring to you, they'll do the avodah necessary, and by virtue of that avodah, you'll reach the level of Kasis Lamar. Without that avodah from below, it won't be. It'll just be Mesiras Nefesh in Russia. Which is amazing avodah, but okay, you said it, but it's just this level of soul shining through. How do you make that level of soul who you are? That's avodah. That's v'yichoy lecho. That's how you get to Kasis Lamar. Without that, you don't get to Kasis
Is
Lamar.
that relevant to Islavshus too? That
So it's mislavish, absolutely. That's what's so astounding. It'll be mislavish. It's so to speak mislavish. The etzem will be mislavish, whatever.
yeah,
Right? Yeah. Even though usually mislavish is shaykh to or, right?
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it'll become part of the conscious reality. So you become Rav Mendel. How do you become Rav Mendel? How come those other people aren't Rav Mendel? Not that they're not amazing people, but they didn't do the work that Rav Mendel did. That's v'yichoy lech. Moshe do whatever he wants, right? But Moshe doesn't bring you to that level. Moshe gives you the keiches to take yourself to that level. And if you do it, then you've now brought about a greater expression of Moshe. Because now Moshe is not only the source of your Mesiras Nefesh, because of the keiches you got from Moshe and all the avodah that you've done yourself, you've now, v'yichoy lecha, got to a point of Kasis Lamar, which is actually an elevation in Moshe himself, because Moshe is the source of that, the Seder, but it's all your work that brought about that, and that's going to be the tetzave, or that's the greater light in Moshe that you bring by virtue of your avodah. Wow.
So
That's what's going to happen next in the night.
so actually,
And then we're near the end. I mean, we're almost done.
actually the order of the pasuk is not just the fact that us bringing the Shemin to Moshe elevates Moshe, elevates us too.
Yeah, but Seder, but we're doing the v'yichoy lecha is us doing the work to elevate ourselves, and that brings about a tetzave or Moshe. We bring ourselves, but only through v'yichoy lecha can you get to Kasis Lamar. Veata tetzave b'nei Yisrael, Moshe can connect us to the level of Mesiras Nefesh. Kasis Lamar has to come from below. That's why it's separated by v'yichoy lecha. It's just so astounding. Pleasure amazing.
Wow.
And there's one more thing we haven't answered. There's still a question we haven't answered. We'll answer it next week. And then we'll have to do some short little Pesach stuff. Because we'll have a few classes. I wanted to see if we could get this and the Mishteis are done, but there's not enough time.
Yeah.
So
Could we start class at 11? Or
yes, we'll start at 10:45.
So Rabbi, when we discussed previously, so in the levels of Purim, there was one level before we received the Torah.